Good morning! Today, we will be discussing all about writing a problem-based learning plan. But before that, let me give you the objectives for today's discussion. First, identify the ways on writing a lesson plan through project-based learning approach. Second, develop learning outcomes that require ICT integration. And last, create a lesson plan that uses project-based learning approach. Pedagogy that involves a dynamic classroom approach in which it is believed that students acquire deeper knowledge through active exploration of real-world challenges and problems. Moreover, it is more than just a teaching method. It is a revitalization of education for students so that they can develop intellectually and emotionally. By using real-world scenarios, challenges, and problems, students gain useful knowledge and skills that can increase during their designated project periods. The goal of using this is through complex questions or problems to develop and enhance student learning by encouraging critical thinking, solving, teamwork, and self-management. In addition to that, project-based learning is different because the learning is spread out over time, meaning students are given the opportunity to learn, discover, and create throughout the entire learning process. According to the Back Institute for Education, project-based learning is a teaching method in which students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to an authentic, engaging, and complex question, problem, or challenges. So here are the things you have to consider on how to write a project-based learning plan inside a classroom setting. First is creating a clear and measurable learning objectives. It is the key to develop purposeful and systematic instruction, in which one of the strategies instructor used is to relate course into one or more measurable learning objectives for each unit or module, in which when we are creating our learning objectives, it is necessary that we have to consider the revised Bloom's taxonomy, in which we use action verb to describe a particular cognitive level when we are writing corporate learning goals. Some examples of such verbs include: first, the knowledge. The related verbs used are recognize, identify, match, list, and define. Next is comprehension. The verb used are associate, define, explain, summarize, and describe. For the application, the verbs used are apply, distinguish, operate, utilize, and perform. For the analysis, the words used are analyze, classify, determine, inspect, recognize. For synthesis, the verb used are arrange, build, create, design, produce, or rewrite, and specify. For the evaluation, we use the verb appraise, choose, conclude, describe, judge, evaluate. But since we are in project-based learning approach, we have to use the verbs under application and synthesis, since it is related on building, designing, and producing a specific output or a project. Examples of learning outcomes under project-based learning approach are: first, creating an interactive family tree with voiceover from lived writing a problem-based learning plan is identifying your learning resources. In identifying your learning resources, you have to identify the mode of instruction in which it is a good way to enhance the teaching level of a teacher. They may prepare instructional materials for their lectures in the class. They may use video presentations, reading materials, worksheets, or other learning resources. The third step is prepare the problem, dilemma, decision, or challenge the students will use to explore the content. Challenge is the core of the growth of mindset. Without it, students don't get the opportunities to take risks, learn to fail, and figure out how to pick up themselves again. This sense of progress, as Dweck calls, is central to develop growth mindset. In project-based learning approach, you can either create a project or select from one of the existing project bank where you can exercise yourself from creating a project. There is an essential project-based design elements checklist that we can use for a quick evaluation of our project design to see if it includes all the essential elements of rigorous, effective project-based learning. This checklist is a user-friendly tool and based on our project design rubric. Use this tool before, during, and after designing our project to check on the quality of our output. The fourth step is define the procedure for in-class project analysis that your students will be completing. Let your students know if they need to bring or prepare anything before the class. The idea is to create an active learning environment wherein the students interact with the content and the instructor acts as a guide. Activities should be scaffold that students into the project. For project-based learning approach, they may provide materials that are needed for their output. They may browse or provide resources on how or show procedures and steps in their projects that they are going to create. The fifth step in writing a learning plan is identifying any post-analysis activities that your students will be completing. Post-assessment activities allow the instructors and learners to assess their understanding of the content covered. Post-assessment activities should be aligned directly with the learning outcomes. They may create reflections or journals in order to assess their learning process. Through that, we were able to comprehend in our learning progress. And the last step is create the assessment that you will use for determining the mastery of the learning objective. Assessments are no longer simply a test that students are about to neglect the study for. You may use formative assessment in which it is an assessment for learning that helps the students see the progress during the project-based learning or PBL. In project-based learning approach, students are presented in a real-world issues or problem and learn to content the world in order to solve it. Okay? Since we are done discussing the ways or tips on how to write a project-based learning plan, now we are moving on discussing the integration of ICT in project-based learning plan. My presentation is a reading-like presentation in which all you have to do is to read all the content provided on your screen.